like to call this meeting of the Alexander County Board of Commissioners into order on this, the 6th day of January of 2020, our first meeting of the new year. At this time, I'd ask you to please rise. Commissioner Ronnie Reese will have the invocation, followed by Commissioner Jeff Peel with our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, Lord, we come to you today, and Lord, thank you for the blessings of this day. Pray that you be with us during the meeting tonight. Give us wisdom, make wise decisions as we move Alexander County forward. Pray for all our emergency people who put themselves on the line each day for our protection. Pray at this time for our military and Lord, for our country and our nation. Pray for military especially as they are protecting the freedoms we enjoy here. Freedom's not free. Lord, help us remember that each day as we pray. In thy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
As Chairman Reese eloquently said, freedom's not free. So if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have a special recognition, the Alexander County Cooperative Extension. These folks do a really good job for us here in Alexander County. I'm going to read this off here of the recognition that they got. I'm going to ask Lenny, if you would, to come forward and bring you folks up, all of them, each and every one. That one likes to tour around out in farmland, though, I know that. But she's got to get home in time for dinner on Saturday. That's very important.
Right, got to be home.
That's exactly right.
Home for dinner.
Yeah, but this is from Lindsay Rogers. It says, our staff won the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Statewide Search for Excellence Team Award. We first won the South Central Search for Excellent Team Award. Then of the district winners, we won the overall state Search for Excellent Team Award. It was based on working well as a team through exhibiting many staff team programs throughout the year. Some examples of these that we have done and continue to do are Wake Up to Agriculture, first graders, Commissioner's Choice Awards, Speedway to Healthy, Extension Plant Sale, 4-H Junior Livestock Show, Embryology in all elementary school, 3rd grade Agriculture History Tour, Ag Tour, Real Money, Real World Middle Schools, Farm City Banquet, 4-H Summer Fun Camps, and other things that they do. And our extension program here in this county is, I wouldn't put it up, I wouldn't let them be last to anybody. They're a very outstanding group. They do a good job. They pay attention. They help our children and the youth of this county. And I've watched them over the years and the things they do and the staff that they have. And I commend you on the people that you have that works there, Lenny. You've done a great job in your leadership there, and appreciate everything you and your staff does. And at this time, if you would like to tell some more things that you all do, we'd greatly appreciate it, because somebody needs to say something.
I'll just say our staff works great together, and, you know, we just do what we can do to benefit the citizens of our county, and we can do that better as a team and a lot of joint efforts. So I'm just glad to work with a staff that does work so well together. That's all I can say. Anybody else?
I would like to add, Larry, they do a lot of things, other things in the community
Yes.
too. They're involved in. They're all very involved in the Christmas parade, and that just, you know, that's not just a one-day event. There's a lot of planning that goes on there, and every one of them participate in that. And I'm very appreciative. The county should be very appreciative.
Very
of what they do.
appreciative. You know, it's one of the best Christmas parades as far as I'm concerned in the state of North Carolina. It's a huge Christmas parade, and it brings out a lot of people, and we appreciate it. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. And when you have a banquet, the banquets are good, the food's good, the educational things that you learn there are very, very good. And I hear people that come to your meetings and the adults that are involved in your programs and the things that they have to say about our agriculture and the different programs that you do. I mean, I don't ever hear anything but good things. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say a bad thing at all. And that's to be commendable.
Well, Lenny, I'd like to add too that through my time with the school system, was involved in a lot of the programs with you and with all of you guys. Through my time serving on your board, I was involved with a lot of the things with you. Definitely as a commissioner, I've seen a lot of them, and as a citizen. And very, very thankful for all the great and outstanding things that you guys do. if y'all are involved in it, it's first class. And, you know, there's no question about it. It's going to be a good program. Things are going to go well. It's going to be organized, and the results are going to be phenomenal. So my hat's off to you. The state may be just recognizing something now, but we've known it for a long time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
I'll take over. And I apologize for being late. I had vehicle problems today and just had picked it up and couldn't get here. So Commissioners' report. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report on?
Mr. Chairman, I attended the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. We had the privilege of traveling to Washington, D.C. We were there for about 4 days, and the Board of Directors, we had our meeting in Washington. We had the opportunity to meet with different senators and different representatives and different department heads to talk about the problems that we have in North Carolina. And it seems that when you talk to them, it's not just in North Carolina, it's a nationwide problem. Internet service, continuing on the infrastructure. A lot of our folks down east are continuing to have problems trying to get disaster relief funding actually given to them so that they can continue to rebuild the eastern part of our state from the hurricanes that they had. And we had the opportunity to put a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier. And if you've never visited there, you've never been a part of it, it's one of the most moving experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. And we did that in recognition of our veterans and our military personnel in the state of North Carolina. And our association, as you know, it works for the good of all 100 counties. It doesn't just work for the rural or the urban. They try to do everything they can that will turn out for the best of for our state. And we had a very, very good meeting and enjoyed it, and a lot of educational things that came out of it in talking to our representatives in Washington.
Anyone else? I'd just like to mention, I hope everyone had a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I just popped into my head, but I was watching something this morning on TV about the fires in Australia. It is really, really bad there, and just keep those people in our thoughts and prayers. Gentlemen, you got the agenda before you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. First item on the agenda is public comment, and I believe we do have a couple people that have signed up. First, Kathy Riddle, if you're, there you are, Kathy. You want to come on up, and I will just reiterate that the length of comment is 3 minutes, and our clerk will be timing that, so.
Good evening. I'm here to talk to you this evening about Friends of the Library. In this county, we have 2 Friends of the Library organizations. We have the Alexander Friends of the Library, and we have the Bethlehem Friends of the Library. And January is our membership month, and I placed in front of each of the commissioners, and Jamie and Rick, one of our cards that you can conveniently enroll your membership by using this card. And it's pretty self-explanatory on there. So January is when we recruit all of our new members and renew the people who've been members. As friends, we support our local libraries, we participate in activities, we provide the extras for the library. You know, through taxes, you provide the meat and the potatoes. We provide the dessert. And some of that meat and potatoes are like the salaries and the supplies, the books that they order. And we provide other activities through our annual book sales. Both of our groups do the book sales. And then we also get more money through our membership drive, so it's important to do that. Besides the book sales, each of our organizations have other activities. In fact, tomorrow night, the Bethlehem group starts their Let's Talk About It series. And that goes on for several weeks. It's a book discussion. And that's sponsored by them and the North Carolina Humanities Council. So also, one of the other things that we do is we have provided for the past 4 years a $1,000 scholarship each year to any Alexander County resident who's attending college. It doesn't have to be a student who just graduated from high school. This past year, we gave it to an adult who is attending college. The stipulation is that you have to be someone who has volunteered at the library. So we need members to make these dessert events happen. And one of the neat things that we do, we've done it now, I think it's 2 years, is when you sign up with this green card, then you get a little discount card. And that goes for 10 different businesses that are in the community, and you can get discounts there. One of our members kept track last year. His $8 senior membership provided over $165 in benefits. Wow. He's that kind of a guy, and he keeps track. So,
Time's up. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy.
Thanks.
We also have another speaker that signed up for public comment, Sean Witherspoon. I'm sorry, I can't read the writing here. Sherry Witherspoon, I'm sorry. I see now, okay.
I'm here to speak on Alexander County becoming a constitutional rights protection county for Second Amendment rights, and I have a resolution. Whereas it is acknowledged that the right of individual to keep and bear arms is under attack in the United States of America by elected officials from many levels of government. Whereas it is further recognized that the Constitution of the United States of America is supreme law of the land, and the Second Amendment to the Constitution guarantees individual to have right to keep and bear arms in a manner that shall not be infringed. Whereas the Supreme Court of the United States has, through multiple rulings, upheld an individual's rights to keep and bear arms when federal, state, and local laws have sought to restrict this right. Whereas the right to bear arms is necessary for self-defense, the defense of others, including family members, the protection of individual liberty, and for the preservation of our United States Constitution. Whereas many Americans believe that the Second Amendment rights are God-given rights, and it is a law of nature that every creature can defend their lives from threats. Whereas the Alexander County Board of Commissioners wishes to express its deep commitment to protecting Alexander County citizens' Second Amendment rights. Whereas the Alexander County Board of Commissioners wishes to express opposition to any law, regulation, or other act that would infringe on the Second Amendment rights of Alexander County citizens. Whereas the Alexander County Board of Commissioners expresses its intent for Alexander County to stand as a constitutional rights protection county for Second Amendment rights by opposing any efforts by any entity to restrict these rights. Opposition will include any means available under the United States Constitution and the laws of North Carolina, including the withholding of funds, direction of county employees, legal action, and other means deemed necessary and legal. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Alexander County Board of Commissioners declares that Alexander County a Second Amendment constitutional rights protection county, and declares that Alexander County government will respect and defend the Second Amendment rights of county citizens. The Alexander County Board of Commissioners implores the North Carolina Legislature and the United States Congress to preserve, uphold, and protect the rights of all citizens to keep and bear arms under the United States Constitution, and further implores the North Carolina Legislature and the United States Congress to reject any provision, law, or regulation that may infringe, have the tendency to infringe, or place any additional burdens on the right of law-abiding citizens to bear arms. The Alexander County government will not authorize or appropriate government funds, resources, employees, agencies, buildings, or offices for the purpose of enforcing or assisting in the enforcement of any element of such acts, laws, orders, mandates, rules, or regulations that infringe on the right of the people to keep and bear arms as described in the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. The Alexander County government will utilize all legal means necessary to protect the Second Amendment rights of Alexander County citizens, including, but not limited to, legal action.
Thank you. All right, and I want to say one thing. The public comment period, I should have read this off to begin with. It's intended to allow the Board of Commissioners an opportunity to listen to the citizens' comments and concerns. It's not a time for us to discuss issues or answer impromptu questions, so it's a time for the public to comment, not the commissioners to comment. So we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Sherry. On to number 2 on the agenda, which is public hearing and the approval of road names. And this is a public hearing, so we will need to open it as a public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of open public hearing, motion passes unanimously. I call on Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets, you have the request to change for a road name to Chatola Ridge Drive. It's off Rocky Face Church Road. The staff requests the approval of the following road name. This name meets the regulations as required. The name has been checked for duplication, sound, indexing, and so on, and is recommended.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Would anyone in the audience like to comment on this? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of closing public hearing, raise your right hand. Everybody raise? Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the name change as presented.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Item number 3 on the agenda is the North Carolina 127 widening, talking about the bike and pedestrian facilities. Brian Horton, who is with the Greater Hickory Metropolitan Planning Organization, he is the Transportation Planning Manager. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Here to give you an update on the NC 127 widening project by North Carolina Department of Transportation and design options to include bicycle pedestrian facilities. Recently, the Bethlehem community adopted a community plan. We had actually over 100 attendees at the unveiling of the draft plan at Bethlehem Elementary. I think the plan was well received. It was recently adopted. And in that plan, there were recommendations, a vision, if you will, for Bethlehem to become a more walkable, bikeable community, to leverage a lot of the recreational assets that are in the community, of course, obviously the lake, and connectivity to those assets. On the 127 corridor, the plan recommended that it is a bike route, not really getting the specifics per se for some of the facilities, but recognizing that it should be a route that encourages cycling or at least provides safer and more comfortable facilities than there are there today, as well as a multi-use trail opportunity south of Rink Dam Road to the bridge or the lake, and that's why I'm here today. So this is an opportunity, next slide please, that with the widening project, and these are actually all active projects in Alexander County by North Carolina Department of Transportation. I'm, of course, though, only going to be speaking about what's in the Bethlehem community, NC 127 widening. That also is known as R3603A, kind of encryptic name, but that's the project number. It is currently programmed for right-of-way in 2021, or next year, to go to real estate acquisition and construction in 2023, a $53 million project. That project will widen NC 127 from Hickory at Kleininger Mill Road in Catawba County all the way to Ritchie Road, or just past the Bethlehem Fire Rescue Station. Here we're looking at the section of 127 from Lake Hickory, Catawba River. North is to your right, so we're, west is at the top. We're looking at 127 kind of from the lake and through Rink Dam Road. This is a section, if you notice on the aerial, I know the parcel lines are really faint, but you can see the right-of-way has really been set up predominantly on the western side. And that's good because it won't then have hopefully a lot of property impacts with that widening. And so I just want to give you that context. The right-of-way there is in many places already set to about 100 feet, which will accommodate the typical section. Next slide, please. As we move north, however, the right-of-way, of course, becomes more constrained. It is not anywhere near 100 feet, especially as we approach Bethlehem Elementary School. And that's going to be important later when I talk about an alternative alignment that the NCDOT has been looking at as part of this project. So this is looking, from Heritage Farm Road, or south, actually. Tigtown would just be off to the right. Rink Dam is just off to the left. Next slide, please. And so lastly, as we approach the end of the project on the northern end, we can definitely see the rural nature of the current corridor and the development that has, obviously been attracted to Tigtown Road intersection and where the school is near the pond. Next slide, please. So again, that southern section going towards Hickory has a lot wider right-of-way than the northern section. It also is the section of the corridor closest to the lake, which many community members, especially Bethlehem community members, identified as a recreational asset they wanted to provide greater connectivity to in the Bethlehem Community Plan. And so this provided an opportunity when thinking of modern bicycle and pedestrian facilities to rethink what maybe that corridor could be with the funding or with the funded project in the near future. And so last time I was this board, we talked about a multi-use path and how this corridor was really good for that, given that section that has very limited driveways, intersections, and the available right-of-way, plus its proximity to the lake. Next slide, please. And so NCDOT has looked at the design of adding a multi-use path that would be a 10-foot path that's asphalt, that's shared by all users, bicyclists and pedestrians, scooters, that's non-motorized vehicle traffic on the western side, and that section would continue into Hickory all the way down to Kleininger Mill Road. That's that orange line. It would be also across the bridge on the western side. This project would widen or create a new bridge to the west, a parallel bridge, such that the existing bridge would become northbound 127 and a new bridge would become southbound 127. And as you see, continuing to Alexander County, on the lower portion of that aerial, that orange would continue. Now the pink is the sidewalk option. We heard from the community that even though the western side provided the best opportunity for a trail, especially with the Wickenburg access, the lake, the bridge, they still wanted pedestrian connectivity, especially to businesses around Rink Dam Road. And so this typical section, which you see in the upper right corner, there's a median divided section with 2 lanes each direction, multi-use path on the western side, but a sidewalk on the eastern side. So, but looking at options, they did look at bike lanes as well. However, hearing from the community in the community plan, it appears that a multi-use path is preferred, especially with the speeds that are on this corridor and likely would continue to be on this corridor. We find that many users are more comfortable biking on a separated path than actually just in the roadway with pavement markings separating them from higher speed traffic. So they did, but NCDOT did look at this option, and that's why we're here tonight, is kind of look at these 2 options for the southern section of the project as well as 4 options for the northern section. So northern section, there are 4 options. Originally, this project was going to transition from just a curb section to a swale ditch section north of Rink Dam Road, or essentially Shiloh Church Road north. Not the southern section across Trigger Ridge Road, but where Shiloh Church Road comes in just north of Rink Dam Road. With this plan, or with this project and trying to coordinate with the Bethlehem community, New Vision, they wanted to look at several options for your consideration, how you could accommodate bicycle pedestrians going north of Rinkdam Road where the right-of-way is not as available, or there are more constraints or potential impacts. So in option one, they look at a curb section with sidewalks both sides. Option two, they look at, option one has sidewalks both sides, but also bicycle lanes both sides, whereas option two loses the bicycles lanes and has just sidewalk both sides. The next slide, please. Option three has a sidewalk on the eastern side and a multi-use path on the western side. This would mirror the option one that's in the southern section. And lastly, if you did want to keep the ditch sections or the swales on either side, you could do sidewalk, but as you can see, it gets farther out because for drainage purposes and for clear zone recovery requirements of a vehicle leaving the roadway, sidewalks have to be farther back. And so that would be the wider section. You have the opportunity to kind of influence or guide what you think should be the section that they should design north, because the plan is a little bit vague there. It says this should be a bicycle route, but does not mean that it has to have bike lanes. And it's opportune now because the state recently changed their policy on cost share. Next slide, please. But before I get to cost share, I do want to make you aware not only of the right-of-way constraints that are possible north of Rinkdam Road, but also an alignment option. A new alignment is possible, and the state is still studying this, to take out that curve, as you see there near Bethlehem School, between kind of the fire station going towards Heritage Farm Road, that there's an opportunity to straighten out the alignment. And that would kind of leave the existing 127, if you will, as kind of a frontage local connector road, sort of like how 90 is to 64 in the vicinity of Hiddenite community. That would be where you keep existing 127 but realign new 127. They're still studying that. And if they did that, then that new alignment would go to the east of that pond that you saw east of the school and tie in time for the Teaguetown intersection. And so that's of concern because if you look at a wider typical section for bicycle pedestrian options, you may want to consider, the trade-offs of school connectivity versus property impacts if they do continue along the existing alignment. Yes, sir.
Can you rewind all that right there about that rerouting of that road, please? I'll make
Yes.
sure I understand what you're saying.
So this project generally widens the existing alignment from Hickory at Cloninger Mill all the way up to fire station. But in this section near the school between Heritage Farm and Teaguetown, there is an option to do a kind of straightening a new alignment. And so if they did that, they haven't decided yet. If they did, and there will be another public meeting or community meeting in this community where there will be maps and things for the community to look over. But if they were to decide on that option through public input, that option would be on entirely new right-of-way and leave the existing 127 kind of as a connector road.
So it would go from Teaguetown, sort of a straight shot almost to the fire department, around the pond, and then the school would be set back, and that would be like a service road. Is that,
That's
am I
correct.
hearing
Yeah,
you
it'd be like a
correctly?
service road.
Okay.
Or like the old 90 next to 64 in Hiddenite.
And you get all that traffic off the road.
Yes, because there is also a funded project to add a turn lane at the school. And that was so close to this project, they've decided to kind of look at this more holistically and see if there are options to kind of incorporate that turn lane and/or would this alignment address those the backing up concerns on the school or at the school. So next slide.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, you're welcome. So why I'm back today is last time I was here, you heard about, the emergence of the multi-use path as kind of the community vision and more comfortable facility for all users, especially children biking, but really all families and everybody to have that recreational aspect of a separated path from the road. The state was still exploring what's called their complete streets policy, and previously the state would ask for a cost share. If you asked for this type of facility, it was considered kind of like a betterment, and you'd be on the hook for about 20% of the costs, or 10% depending on your population and some of those policies. But right now, they have recently adopted a new policy that basically they pay the capital costs. If you have an adopted plan, which the Bethlehem Community Plan plus a regional bicycle pedestrian plan, fill that, document, then you do not have to pay anything for the capital construction costs. However, you still have to enter into a maintenance agreement. But that's the same case like with, you have new Sidewalk by O'Reilly's Auto Parts. That's the development standard for new development along 127. That newer development, as they build Sidewalk, that development builds it, but someday it will have to be maintained as well. So this is why I'm back. Last time you decided to do a non-binding vote or consent that it was okay to move forward with the project, knowing that this policy was under consideration for change, but to come back to you if it changed and or when the design advanced. Design is not yet final, as you saw with that alignment option, but they're at a point where they want some direction as to maybe what those options they should pursue for a typical section.
So one thing I would think you'd want to consider would be the maintenance portion of that, to indicate we don't have an agreement, but at least indicate that we would support an agreement, but they would pay all the capital costs. I mean, seems pretty easy.
I think it's a no-brainer that we would take care of the maintenance cost. I mean, because the upfront cost is going to be extremely expensive. And if we set aside money each year toward the maintenance cost, then we should be able to take care of that. But I think that we'd have to designate funding each year into that maintenance cost, and it would be just for that. Because if we didn't, we'd mess around, and the next thing you know, we wouldn't have that money set aside for that maintenance.
Well, we would need personnel and
Right.
obviously a little bit of
Yes.
equipment to do that.
Is there a rule of thumb or a projection of what the maintenance cost would actually be for this stretch and this type of scenario?
So it varies by facility type. I mean, the path is 10-foot asphalt, the sidewalks, 5-foot square panels of concrete. There's routine maintenance for like repairs, water, tripping hazards, things like that. But the lifespan of the facility, concrete's longer, less vehicles, drive over it. That's usually what wears down concrete. Asphalt's, the problem is water. The main thing you're getting here, though, is all the grading, the construction costs, the traffic control to build it. They absorb that cost, but it varies by facility. We could provide some follow-up if through Rick French, your manager, as to what you want to see unit costs, maybe, or how
Well,
often do you
On a
have to pay?
project like this, I would just assume that there was probably some type of rule of thumb of what general maintenance over time would run on a project such as this. That's why I'm just asking, is there any type of rule of thumb out there for it?
Sure. I mean, fortunately, your labor costs are cheaper than statewide costs, but I mean, it's really that the two main things are labor and the concrete, or the materials, concrete or asphalt. A construction for a sidewalk is about $85,000 a quarter mile. Multi-use paths about $125,000. The maintenance costs about, well, if you do full replacement, you don't have to do the grading, so you're going to save on that, which is about more than half the cost usually for the site work. But, when you see a road getting built, most of the work is leading up to the actual paving.
I understand.
But I'd be happy to provide you. Do you want some comparable communities? Because you probably don't want to go to Charlotte; their prices are way too high.
Well, when we're deciding on something, I just like to know everything I can. So, I mean, it's the county's money, so I think it's a cool thing. I think it's something we need, but I'd just like to know kind of specifics.
Yeah, and then I guess what he's asked for is, what's the lifespan, on the multi-use path? What's that lifespan gonna be? So,
With not taking care of routine maintenance like potholes and things, it's about 20-year
okay.
span of asphalt. A lot better than a road because you're not having, of course, the weight of a road.
Yeah, I think while we're doing it, now's the best time to get all that we can, as far as the path and all of that. I know it's kind of like if you buy a new swing set, you got to maintain it. So,
You don't have to enter, I should clarify, into the maintenance agreement right now, but they are asking if it's okay, of course, to proceed with a design that is, kind of assumes that, which would be required before construction.
And going down the hill from Rink Dam to the bridge, the grading cost on that are massive. And so, yeah, if we can get the state of North Carolina to take care of that, that would be great. So, yeah, I'm all for it, so I think
In
it's a
the
good
northern
thing.
section, if they haven't decided, can the commissioners wait until they decide before they?
Oh, for the
lock it?
alignment?
For whether they do bike or sidewalks or whatever they do?
Sure, I guess one thing, though, they did want to ask is bicycle lanes. Since it's kind of emerged that they have fallen out of favor, especially on higher speed facilities or multi-lane facilities, do you think the northern section then should forego bicycle lanes as well? I mean, it's kind of odd transition at Rink Dam Road.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is instead of the five of us making that decision, we need to follow what the Bethlehem Community Plan, you know, the people of Bethlehem had input, they got to see that plan, and, you know, I think we need to follow that. So instead of us, you know, trying to piecemeal this thing together, we just need to do whatever the people of Bethlehem asked us to do.
Well, Nancy-
Especially since the state of North Carolina is gonna be the one paying all the costs except for the maintenance cost on that.
And that'll make a difference,
Yeah.
huge difference.
So as I interpret the plan, multi-use path was only explicitly recommended south of Rink Dam Road. However, bike accommodations were recommended the entire corridor. So you still have the option of if you wanted to do a multi-use path in lieu of bike lanes, that would still read to me as planners, plan consistent.
You're talking
Or
about
consistent
north
with the
of,
plan.
you're talking about north of, Rink Dam Road?
Yes, north of Rink Dam Road, you have a little bit more leeway because the plan was not explicit in terms of a path recommendation, just said this is a corridor. And I think that because they were cognizant of the right-of-way impacts, that you may want to trade that off, that it's nice to have a continuous facility, but at some point you have to look at how many properties you're gonna, you know, need to create that facility.
So in other words, what, you know, what, basically, let me make sure I'm right here, okay? You're talking about doing the multi-purpose lane from the dam, from the river, all the way out past to Bethlehem School.
That's an option,
Okay,
yes.
we could do that.
Yes.
And then on the east side, you would have sidewalks up to the shopping center, and then it would stop there, and it wouldn't go all the way north to the school?
No, you could take it the whole way. There's options for all that. I guess so, it sounds like it would be really good to see the visuals at the public meeting
Yes.
and carry multiple options forward. That's what I'm hearing, that you're not comfortable at this point of eliminating options because you need to visualize what that would look like, and especially the number of properties it would impact. And the uncertainty of whether or not they're going to use an alternative alignment between Heritage Farm and Tigtown.
So you're saying that bike paths have fallen out of favor, so they don't want to do that. So it's
Bike
either-
lanes, yes.
Yeah, so it's either, we need to do a sidewalk, or we need to do a multi-use path.
Sidewalks, by themselves, a 5-foot path, if you expect a lot of cyclists, they can be deficient. So that's where I think that, you know, path on one side, especially going towards the lake where you know you're gonna have more recreational users, is a good recommendation. The question is, do you wanna carry it to the school? That's really what's at the heart of this. If you want, and on the same side, that's the good news, is the new bridge and the school are on the same side, so you don't have those users crossing back and forth on 127.
That's good, though.
So I'm hearing, because where they're seeking is your consent to move forward with the design, you're not comfortable eliminating options, and you look forward to the next public community meeting that will present kind of visualization of those
I
options.
don't think we should leave any option out. I think we should look at all options, you know, to do the very best thing for that area. Especially if we put sidewalks on the east side and we put the paved path on one side. You know, I think that, you know, anything that we can do to make it a really nice area, really. If you did the sidewalk on the east side and did the all-purpose lane on the west side.
And a bike path is actually in the road, right?
So a multi-use path would be behind the curb.
Right.
A bicycle lane is inside the curb with a just
Okay.
solid white line separating it from the travel lane of cars.
So the multi-use path is a lot safer. So, yeah.
It's definitely more comfortable.
Yeah. So how much time do we have to, you know, actually decide on this?
like you said, right now, they just wanted the input on, well, I guess if we could go back to options 1 and 2 on the south, I think that's the easier decision. One more back, sorry. Okay, so this one did not have the multi-use path, and it's in the section where there is available right-of-way, even in Catawba County, but I know we're focused on Alexander County. Both sides of the lake there have available right-of-way, and if you could go back one more. Appreciate Chad navigating, thank you. It seems this is the most plan-consistent section south, that this is the one that's less contentious, and that this would accommodate the vision of the Bethlehem Community Plan, so it's okay to move forward with this for the upcoming meeting and start fine-tuning that design.
And that sidewalks on the east side.
Yeah.
And trail, but let's just call it trail. Multi-use path is a technical
Yeah.
term, but trail is a more common term.
Trail on the other side.
Yeah, trail on the west side.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm good with that, are you guys?
So one's a 10-foot, one's a 5-foot,
Right.
That's correct. 10-foot asphalt trail on the west, 5-foot concrete
and both are
sidewalk
outside
on
the curb.
east. Both are back of curb.
Yeah, the lane of trail.
The trail would have a little bit of grass separation from the curb. The sidewalk could too, in
That's
places,
what the
especially for
plan
grade.
calls for.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with saying that, yes, that's what the plan called for, and that's what we should do.
And then if you advance 2 more.
I have one more
Oh, sure.
question right
Sorry.
here.
Yeah.
On that slide we were just at, it
Sorry,
looks
I have
like
a
both
clicker.
of those stop off at Pisgah Church area. What extends past that off of this option here?
So that's where we get into the northern section, the next part. So Chigger Ridge on the southern end towards the lake and Shiloh Church Road to the south, that's where the sidewalk would end because you have a signal, and you have opportunity for everybody to kind of, because the bridge, the existing bridge is going to be there, and there's no sidewalks on the existing bridge. So you want to get people over to the new side, and that would be that new path. Going north is where you have then the opportunity to transition either at Rink Dam or they're saying available right-of-way up to Shiloh Church just north of Rink Dam. And so that's on the next, those are the next slides. Not as pretty pictures, but they have a cross-section on those next slides.
So we got, what he's saying is we got to decide if we're going to do a multi-use path or sidewalk on that northern section. How's it going to?
And if you're not comfortable tonight ruling out trail, can you advance the next? I think you maybe could go ahead and, the question is, do you want to go ahead and say bike lanes can be dropped, given that they're not on the southern section, or still carry those forward, given that there might not be an option to carry trail? And then the next slide, please. I think it's a safe bet, based on what we've heard tonight, that the last option, option 4, can be eliminated. That we are looking at a curb section, because if you're going to have anything back of curb, you don't want it to be far away from the road and making that right-of-way extra wide.
But I think Mr. Mayberry put it pretty clearly that, we want to be in agreement with what the people have decided and to, draw a line right here tonight, I'm not so sure it's, a good decision.
But you could on the south side.
On the south side,
And that's really what you're looking for tonight, is the south
Yes.
side. You don't have to do the north side really tonight.
Yeah, we could tell NCDOT you wish for these options to be carried forward to get better visuals, just like you saw that visual on the south, get some better visuals north, and really see what properties would be impacted with these various alternatives or options.
The state maintenance, do they need this, what do we need to do about that? We don't need to do
You
anything.
don't have to, they just want to know, you're not going to change your mind as you get closer to design, that it's probable. It doesn't have to be a binding vote tonight or definitive, but that it's likely that the county would support a maintenance agreement for them to advance the design. Worst case scenario, county changes their mind or the costs shock, you would inherit a curbed road and there'd be nothing built back of curb.
so from Rink Dam south, I'm comfortable saying that the sidewalk and multi-use path option is what I'm in agreement with, and what the people of Bethlehem said that they wanted.
Was that from Rink Dam or was that from up at Pisgah?
Was that not from Rink Dam?
They saw opportunity to go a little bit farther north.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, Shiloh Church Road
Shiloh
North or
Church.
Pisgah.
Well, it goes in front of all the businesses if you run it to Pisgah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So whatever was on the, yeah, I think the original one was from Rink Dam, but okay. We'll just call that the southern section.
You need a motion?
I need you guys to kind of just give him some clarity.
Well, I personally, I think we need to make them Shiloh with a bike trail on the west side and the sidewalk on the east side. All the way down to the traffic light. Then, of course, that's the only reason we can't go all the way across anyway at the sidewalk across the bridge is because the new bridge won't hold the sidewalk. So there we absolutely have to cross over when the new bridge will hold the sidewalk. And so that's the reason for that being, so. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I think the same thing on the south end. We've got some time on the north end. It's gonna be a while before they start turning dirt really, so we can make a decision on that. at a
Yeah, it's
later time.
still not, it's over a year out for real estate. But what they will be coming to the community with more preliminary design this year. Expect a meeting like late winter, spring in the community, probably be held, the school is a good meeting facility.
So,
I think that
so
would be
you're
good.
saying, I'm sorry, you're saying February, March, something like that, we're gonna have there'll be a public hearing or a public meeting,
Information meeting, yeah.
in Bethlehem about that, okay.
Yep.
How does that crossover at the bridge work?
So that's why the sidewalk would end at Sugar Ridge where there's a signal. And that way users can use the signal plus a crosswalk to cross over to the trail. And the trail then would continue on the bridge on the west side only, on the new bridge.
And that's gonna run all the way up 127 to the Honey Pick area there, is that correct?
Yeah, so
Does it go
into
on past
Hickory
that?
as well, from
The Cloninger Mill Road.
right, Ritchie Road, Bethlehem Fire Squad to all the way down to Hickory, Cloninger Mill Road.
That's gonna be multi-use path, is what
Yeah,
I'm saying, okay.
right now, in Hickory, Hickory has also supported option one,
Okay.
which is what Bethlehem Community supported south of Rink Dam Road. What's not clear is the plan said they wanted, this is a bike route or a walking route, but they didn't say exactly what the facility should be north of Rink Dam. And I think they left that gray area knowing that this project was still being developed and there was potential for impacts because it's narrower. You can see it when you go north of Rink Dam Road, the road becomes more rural, things get closer to the road. So it would be probably good to see how that looks on some maps and aerials at a meeting to see, is it worth that trade-off? I appreciate your deliberation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Item 4 on the agenda is the salary request from the Alexander County School Board. We tabled that back in December. So I guess where did we, you'll have to remind me, guys, what information were we waiting on?
We were waiting
Something.
to make sure that there was adequate time for people
For
to
the
think
public.
about what had
Yes.
been proposed. Yes, sir.
That's correct, yes. So, does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss about this?
I was pretty clear in my stance the last meeting from the fact that it is a budgetary issue for the school board and certainly not ours. It's a rather unusual statute, actually, I think, that we set their salaries and they have to present that to us so that they can raise their salary. But it's a budgetary issue on their end, not on our end. We just allow them to spend their money no any different than they would spend their money We don't tell them what books to get or what school buses to get or anything else. So this would be, to me, the same way, that it's, their money's their money and they spend it how they want to.
It's still taxpayer money, and that's what we manage, is, controlling that.
We don't manage their budget.
Well, if they run out of money, they come to us.
And I'm gonna say, both sides of this issue have valid points. It is the taxpayers' money. And if we approve this, that does not mean that tax dollars come out of Alexander County government and go to the Alexander County, or additional, it does not mean that additional tax dollars come out of Alexander County government and go to the Alexander County school system. What it does mean is that the money that they are already getting and already have, those additional dollars for salary come out of that. And I would have to agree with Mr. Peel. This really shouldn't even be our decision. It should be a decision of their board. I don't know why this law was written this way. The voters have complete control. They can, if they don't like it, what the school board's done, then they can, vote for new people. So I honestly did not receive any public input about this at all. So no one called me, no one stopped me about this particular issue.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
In your packet, the statute says that the tax levying authority for a local school administrative unit may, under the procedures, fix the compensation and expense allowances paid members of the Board of Education. So you may do it. You don't have to do it.
So really,
You could just, they could set their own. If you don't have to do it. We've done it by practice, I think, is more than anything. You can keep doing it like you've been doing it, or I just want to point out that it does say, the statute says may. You have that in your packet.
so we could elect to approve letting the school board set their salary
That's
however
correct.
they want
And
to
they
set
could
it.
set it whatever amount they wanted to.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm not opposed to an increase, but I am opposed to the 5 times, what they're getting. I think that's, a little much, but like I said, I'm just one guy.
Well, let me ask a question. Would you guys be opposed to allowing, voting to allow the school board to set their salaries? They can set it, to this. They cannot, they'll have to take that vote and be held accountable to the public.
I would support that.
Quite honestly, to me, that's how it should be. That's what they've already done.
I'm pretty much surprised this even came to us to start with, okay? I can sit here and tell y'all exactly how I felt about this, so that y'all know where I'm coming from. My opinion tonight coming in here was to say, if they're gonna do anything, $300 increase, cut it in half, that would make it $420. And then you go from $420, if they have another pay increase, it would go along with any increase that county commissioners got. And, we don't get that many pay increases, so it'd be at $420. And the other thing that goes on here is they get money to go to meetings. And, last time I checked, I didn't get paid any extra to go to a meeting.
It's all figured
And that's
in.
nothing against the school, okay? They have an extremely hard job, and, it's a very difficult job. And it also is a job that affects every person in this county that has children in the public school system. And it affects taxpayers, and it's a tough job. I wouldn't have a problem with them, you know, they set their own salary, you know, if they want to do that, that's fine with me. I mean, I think that they should be held accountable for what they pay themselves and the money that they want to make. And, I mean, we're held accountable. If we'd give ourselves a $500 pay raise tonight, I'm gonna tell you now, I wouldn't go home, I'd just keep driving by the house. I wouldn't even stop to talk to my wife, I'd just keep getting it. So, you know, that's basically what I'm saying. And I think that, I was a little surprised when this came up, okay? I really was. Not that they brought it up, but the fact of the way the general statute reads. And then I started reading it close, and it says may. And that let me know that, well, you can either do it or you can't, you know? Well, hey, you know, let the school board set their own salary.
Yeah.
Not us, let them do it. I mean, they're elected officials. They know what kind of problems they have. They know what the revenue is. They know what their budget says and what they can do and what they can't say. And the other thing is, if we tell them how much money they can make, guys, as far as I'm concerned, that's a mandate from the county commissioners going to the local school board, the same way a mandate from Raleigh comes to us telling us what we can do. And I think it needs, they're held accountable for what happens and what they do. And nobody comes to us telling us how to run the school board. And I think that all that falls right on the school board and let them make the decision on their own.
I would agree that I was surprised when this statute came up because I had no idea that it existed, so. I've been on the board since December of 2008 and did not know that, so.
We
that's
never
a
had
new
it come
one.
up before. It's the first time I've ever known it come up, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm one of the senior members on here, but actually I was on the school board. My first term was started in 2002. So it was $60 then, a meeting. And if I remember correctly, I think it was board member Gary Lale who adopted a motion to increase it. It went from 60 to 120. So I guess that's the only, increase that has been done. And I realize it should have been done, but it's hard to. My advice would be, if we do give it back to the Board of Education, for them to be aware of the amount of money that they will be awarding. Mr. Mayberry said he hadn't had any contact. I've had numerous people who have addressed to me that, just as I said, they're not against getting more money, but they were opposed to, that's a pretty hefty increase, so, but.
That's that's the same thing that I was told. They weren't against any type of increase, but that for them to ask for a $500 a month pay increase was a tremendous amount, so.
Well, they're elected officials. I don't like it when the state of North Carolina tells us what we have to do.
Neither do I.
And so this is not our, should not be part of our,
No
job
more than
description.
any other
Yeah.
part of, there's some things that they do that, we may not think might be the wisest, but it's
Their decisions.
their decision, it's their show, it's their budget, it's, that they're responsible for that, and that's what they do. Several have told me that, a major reason for the inquiry is to hopefully encourage some people to get involved and run for school board. As several of the last election, we had vacant seats and uncontested races, and, to maybe spark some interest as well, too.
Right.
So I think, that's certainly a valid point as well. Nobody wants to do anything for free.
well, it's not for free. You have to give up a lot.
Yeah.
You guys know that. You have to give up a lot, so, and it's a part of a public service, so.
It's a sacrifice no matter how much money you make.
Yeah.
I really think that increasing it is actually, like Jeff said, to spark some more interest in running for school system, or school board. Because it's not a luxury position by any means. And, I'm in agreement with pushing this over and just giving them authority to set their own salary.
Would anybody like to make that in a motion?
I'll make a motion that we send the salary request back to the school board for their determination of setting such salary.
I have a question on that.
Okay.
What,
I don't know if that's, in my opinion, I don't know if that's the best way to do that, is sending it back over to them. I think we just give them the authority to set their own salary, depending on their judgment.
Come to us, we gotta send it back some way.
Yeah, we've got to give them the authority to set it themselves,
Yeah.
right?
We've got a motion on the floor. I would ask Mr. Reese to withdraw his motion. I'm gonna make a motion.
Withdraw the motion or correct the motion to, make the motion to send it to them with authority given for them to set their salary.
So your motion is to deny the request and instead send the request back. And in addition, we are giving authority to the Alexander County School Board to set their own salaries under General Statute 153A-92. Is that correct?
Sounds good.
All right, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously.
I do have one more thing to say, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
In conjunction with that, I'm like the ones on this board. I don't like the state telling us what we can and can't do and use and do and all that good stuff. And as elected official, we always answer to our folks that vote for us. And I believe that they'll make a good decision because they do represent the body of the county.
Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
Number 5 on the agenda is proclamation in support of National Radon Action Month. In case you did not know, radon is and I'll read this, it's a deadly gas. It is, or can be common in this area or part of North Carolina. I would suggest that anyone have a radon test done. And I'll read this proclamation first. Proclamation in support of National Radon Action Month. Whereas radon is a colorless, odorless, radioactive gas that may threaten the health of our citizens and their families, and whereas radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States and the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. And whereas the National Academy of Sciences estimates that up to 21,000 lung cancer deaths occur in the United States each year, and whereas studies show that 1 in 15 homes across the United States have elevated radon levels, and whereas any home may have elevated levels of radon, even if neighboring homes do not, and living in a home with an average radon level of 4 picocaries per liter of air poses a similar risk of developing lung cancer as smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day. And whereas testing for radon is simple and inexpensive and radon problems can be fixed. And whereas Alexander County, the U.S. Surgeon General, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, North Carolina Radon Program, and the North Carolina Advisory Committee on Cancer Coordination and Control support efforts to encourage homeowners to test their homes for radon and have elevated levels of radon reduced. And whereas many residents in Alexander County aren't familiar with radon, yet need to be for the safety and health of their families and a National Radon Action Month proclamation is an opportunity to educate individuals on the available measures to reduce radon. Now therefore be it resolved that the Alexander County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim January 2020 as National Radon Action Month and encourage citizens to have their homes checked for radon. Radon is very dangerous. It's easy test. You can call, you look in the yellow pages, there's probably several companies that do radon testing and mitigation in the yellow pages. So I'll make a motion that we pass this proclamation in support of National Radon Action Month.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I do want to make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Being in the real estate industry, I can tell you that people used to think that radon was just showing up in the more mountainous areas of North Carolina. One of the most prone areas in our area in Alexander County is around Lake Hickory. But radon can pop up overnight and start coming up through the slab in your basement. It is odorless, tasteless. You can't see it, all the above. Cancer is an extremely terrible disease, and radon is very powerful. So I just want to recommend, since folks are out there listening, that if you do have a basement especially, I do suggest you go get a radon test. It's very cheap to do. Local home inspectors, along with some of your pest companies, they all test for radon, and it's as simple as them coming out, putting a device in the home, leaving it for 24, 48 hours, picking it up, and reading the results. And if you had to put a mitigation system in, they're very economical to put in. They're not that invasive. So I just want to reiterate how dangerous radon actually is. And it's something that people just don't think about it.
Yeah, in this proclamation, it's the leading cause of lung cancer among people who do not smoke.
Call the question.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, on to item number 6 on the agenda, resolution of tentative award, Bethlehem Sewer Collection System expansion and pump station upgrade. Calling Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is required by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, and you see the resolution before you, basically stating who's going to do the work, who's the engineering firm, Two Brothers Utilities, LLC, Shabaldine Engineering is our engineer. The amount of the bid is $5,149,557.40. This resolution is required as one of the steps in getting state approval for us to move forward with the project.
Okay, you see the resolution. Is there any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item number 7 on the agenda is budget ordinance amendments number 29 through 33. I call on Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 29 is to increase the JCPC budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 expansion funds from the State Juvenile Justice Reinvestment Act, which includes the raise the age provision, allowing most 16 and 17-year-olds charged with crimes to be served in the juvenile justice system rather than being charged as adults. Budget amendment number 30 is to increase the budget for transfer of school capital improvement fund based on the amount of 2019 school sales tax revenue in excess of the fiscal year 2019 school debt service payments. Budget amendment 31 is to reduce the general fund for a portion of Code Red user fees to be paid by the County Water and Sewer Fund. The $1,000 share of the annual fee paid by County Water and Sewer Fund is not an expense of revenue of the general fund budget. Funds are available in the County Water and Sewer Fund budget fiscal year 2020. Budget amendment number 32 is to increase the DSS budget for the cost of replacing shingle roof on the DSS building and for the purchase of 2 new vehicles through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Vehicle Procurement Program. And I would note that vehicles were not requested in the 2019-2020 budget from DSS, nor was any kind of replacement on the roof. Budget amendment number 33 is to adjust the budget for a 2.5% cost of living adjustment effective on 2/14/20 pay date, a transfer between departments, and the year-end payroll actuarial that will affect the first 2 pay dates in July 2020. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendments.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
The piece on the cars and the roof, really, that should have been in a budget. But under the circumstances that we're dealing with, I think we're left with not a whole lot of choice in the matter, but to have the amendment. But, we would like to think that you put your cars and your building upkeep in the budget, just like everybody else does in their budget. And I'm sure moving forward, we won't have that situation again.
Okay, gentlemen, is there a motion?
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve amendments 29 through 33 as stated.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 8 on the agenda is board appointments and reappointments. Calling Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The appointments are Region E Aging and Adult Care Community Advisory Committee, reappoint Donna Albachon for 3 years. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Linda Clements, and she'll be replacing Kristen Eichard, whose term expires 6/30/2021.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the board appointments as stated.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 9 on the agenda, County Manager Rick French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things to mention. County sales tax revenues update. Through 4 months, we've collected $1,711,000 of our budgeted number, which is $5,113,000, and that's running about 10.8% above the same time last year. New sales tax, so far in 4 months, we've collected $542,936 we budgeted $1,659,000, which is running a little over 7% more than the same time last year. As we noted earlier, with the resolution, we should soon get all the approvals on the Bethlehem Sewer Project. We still have 3 easements. After tomorrow, we'll be down to 2. Talked with the engineering firm that's doing the Stony Point Elementary School Sewer Project. There's a couple of easements there. Once those are obtained, he'll bid the project out, so that should be moving along pretty well. The water project is moving along well. Buckeye Bridge is finishing up in Wittenberg Springs, and next he'll be working in Fox Court. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the county manager?
Mr. French, you did say it was a 10% or so increase.
Yes, sir.
That's always a good day.
Yes, sir.
Mr. French,
Yes, sir.
on our building uptown that carries all the necessary entities that the county offers there. I've been asked several times if we're ever going to have a grand opening there so people can come in and tour. Because some folks don't have they don't have to go there for anything, except maybe to pay their taxes. A lot of them mail them in now. So they're wanting to know when
We'll
we're going to do that.
We'll set something up, Mr. Chairman, soon and let you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, it'd be, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have something really I should have done in the commissioner report, and I apologize. I know Burke County had a new jail opening. I was out of town, I think it was on December the 12th, wasn't able to go. But there is someone here in our audience, Commissioner Jack Sims, represented Taylorsville town and also the county. He was able to attend that.
Okay, well, good. Thank you, Mr. Sims, for representing Alexander County. The consent agenda is before you. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we are also, well, how do we need to do this? All right, so now we are going to go into the Consolidated Human Services Board meeting. We're going to transition right over. So, this is a, I'm sorry, what? Okay. Okay, all right. All right, so I'm going to call on our Consolidated Human Services Director.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. Everybody's got colds, and luckily it's not flu, so I'll try to, hopefully the voice will hold in there. Seems like it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But thank you. And luckily, we don't have a huge agenda tonight, but, and since the the senior center and the health part was short, I'm just gonna do the whole program for you tonight. So, of course, we start with public comment. I don't think we had anybody signed up, so. But the senior center report, just quickly wanted to show you the savings, so far through December on the next graph slide, $816,725 on the Medicare savings. So I'm very proud of that staff. They've worked really hard. I think you remember at one of our last meetings, us talking about the new federal system that they've had to deal with, and it was very challenging. So they have worked really hard to save our citizens $816,000. So we hope to do a little more than that, and we're still helping as people enroll. So, but the big time is November. Yes,
But
sir.
that's on top of last year and the year before doing the $1 million, or I
Yes.
don't remember what it was. It
It
was a
was.
huge number, but that's amazing.
That is, it's a wonderful program, and what this is the pharmaceuticals, the formularies change every year. So you may, folks think, well, I'm signed up for my plan, but you really need to go in and let them help you every year, because some of those medicines change on and off of programs. So, it's a wonderful benefit to our community, so, and they do that all year round. It's just in November and December is the big push for that changes from year to year. And then the next slide just shows you this is the one you usually see with participation. Participation's down a little bit, I think, with the holidays, the weather, gets us a little bit, so just wanted to keep you up to speed on the Medicare particularly. We'll go into the, Health Department next. And you're gonna be sick of hearing of accreditation before accreditation Accreditation is a continuous thing, but this is the year that we go through accreditation, so we're trying to get all that last minute wrapped up things done. It started on the next slide, Chad, is, 2005 is when this went into effect, so we're actually in our second round. We work hard all those 4 years in between, but this is the year when we're putting it all in the documents. So, I have several things for you to do tonight to meet some of those standards, because there's 41 benchmarks and 147 activities. We're gonna do 4 or 5 of those tonight, so, and you don't have to do them all, but there is a section for the governing board, that's pretty in-depth, so, part of that is gonna be, we're always thinking about accreditation when we're doing things. How can we do things better? What are things that we can, what do we need for our community? So the behavioral health clinic that started this month, we're really excited. We've got patients scheduled. That was a Duke Endowment grant that we have another year of. That grant has allowed us to purchase a new electronic sign. It actually will help us meet 4 of those benchmarks, benchmark 5, 7, 9, and 13. Not that you probably wanted to know that much, but if you ever want to read that nice, big, thick book, I have it printed available.
Take your word for it.
Always welcome to share. So, next slide, you'll see the more details than you probably care to know about the sign. If you went by Catawba County Health Department sign, it's very similar. It's the same size. It's just a little better sign because it's a few years past when they bought theirs. The bulbs are better. They last longer. They're a little brighter. So we're real excited about this. The supplier's gonna get all the permits and all the prep work, and so we really, the grant's funding it, so we're, just kind of sitting back and designing the sign. And on the next one, you'll kind of see what we're hoping to look like, and that person standing beside it to just kind of give you a visual. It'll be right in front of the health department building, so as you drive by going to, from, and by the post office, it'll be available for any county department, anything you need to get out there. I know Emergency Services has had the movable sign out there for things, and it's great to try to help keep the public informed. So this can do the same thing. If we have, critical information we're needing to get to the public, things they need to know, you set it at your computer and you change that message in the red. All right, next slide. We're moving quick. The other thing we want to talk about here is, I don't know of a rule or ordinance or anything that we need to adopt, but the benchmark 34 says that our local Board of Health, which is you now, our governing board shall exercise its authority to adopt and enforce rules necessary to protect and promote the public's health. If nothing comes up in that time frame, and the last thing we did adopt was several years ago, dealing with rabies. Then when the state came out with a more stringent, the Board of Health went back and removed ours and just went with the state's governance. So that's the last thing that we've done, and before that, it'd been a long time since we'd had to adopt any rules. So really, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that this is a benchmark and a standard, and that once a year, we'll slow down and at least think about it. We may even put it in your packet just to remind you and not do it on the screen every year, but it's something that the governing board does have to think about. And if there's something comes up in the meantime, I'll bring that to you, but I'm not aware of anything that I think we need to do. Our smoking ordinances, tobacco ordinances have been great to protect public's health. That was a big one that was done all across North Carolina recently, too, and we were ahead of that curve on that, so, all right. So we have officially talked about that. And I gave you a copy of this general statute. I didn't want to bore you to pieces, but that statute is actually one of the 10 essential services that public health does, enforcing laws, regulations that protect health and ensure safety. So if you want to remind yourself of those, it looks like this, burned into my brain. So I just gave it to you as a prompt. I know we did it with your orientation, but if you're like me, it takes a few times to kind of get it in the brain good. So it's there for your reference later. All right, that's health department. Otherwise, we're running pretty smooth. Just still doing a few flu shots. We've done a lot this year, so,
Can I ask you a question about the flu?
yes.
How is it looking in the county and?
We
So
have
far,
had
have
flu,
we-
but it's not been a horrible year. I mean, there's
Good.
definitely cases, and, you know, if you're that one person or few that's been sick, you know it, but it's not been, you know, our numbers in the schools are not tremendous. We've had a lot of, viruses, so we've had some flu, we've had some strep throat, and we've had some stomach bugs, so all that, but overall, it's not been a horrible year.
Do we have a majority of people that took the flu vaccine this year?
Yes, we have.
Good.
You know, there always can be more, but we are just about out of vaccine, which is always a good sign. And all the pharmacies, of course, help us vaccinate, and lots of employers, so, more and more people are taking advantage of that. And I'm a firm believer in the flu vaccine, so. All right, next, we're gonna talk about social services. We do have a director vacancy. You'll see on the next slide, I gave you the organizational structure, just the top tier. Anytime you want to see each of those columns, we can certainly do that. But when we first consolidated, I know you had discussed anytime we had vacancies at that director level, that you were looking at changing that to an assistant director position. So I just wanted to make sure that's still your wishes before we advertise. We changed that DSS director to an assistant DSS director. The difference that would do is a lot of the document signing, the only negative side that I've been able to really attain from the state, I've talked to the state, a couple folks at the state level about, you know, what are those ramifications? I would have to sign all those documents, which is fine. You know, I'm still in that learning curve and wanting to really stay very involved, hands-on. I'm used to signing a lot anyway. So like state contracts would come to me instead of that assistant. The assistant DSS director could not sign state contracts, and some of those state forms. So a lot of that would come up, but I'm fine with that. And if you wanted to change that at some point, you could. You could just upgrade that position if we saw it was not working or a problem. So that still seem like where you want to go?
Well,
Mr.
I'll be
Chairman.
honest with you, I'm not really comfortable making a decision on director or assistant director right now. I'd like to, I mean, we don't have to make that decision tonight, do we?
Well, yes, sir, you should, because we need, since our DSS director has resigned, we need to fill that position. And I think when we started down the road, we talked about, we have a assistant director, health director. Leanne serves, since she is the Consolidated Human Services Director, she really wears that hat. And so if you hire an assistant, you could go that route and fill it that way, and then you could address it later. But that way, we're consistent across the board.
So the only thing the assistant is just signing the papers is the basic.
Papers would come to me.
She would have
Otherwise,
to
an
do that.
assistant would still
Everything
run
else.
day-to-day operations. Not a lot of change, except change in title. You know, they'd still have a lot of the same duties. The part about whether to do it tonight, if we don't make a decision, we can't advertise them until we know what you want us to advertise. And we don't think that's probably gonna be like a 2-week notice time. So, in a lot of those positions, we're probably gonna have to give a month's notice, so
Yeah.
I think it took us a long time last time to get the position filled, so.
2 questions. What will be the impact on the caliber of person that we're able to attract? And 2, what will be the impact on the salary that we provide, whether it's director or assistant director? I like the assistant piece to be consistent across the board with everything, but I think we also gotta look at, you know, what kind of person are we gonna be able to get as well?
That's a very good question. You know, we tend to kind of be training ground anyway, so what we're probably gonna get is somebody that's wanting to have a stepping stone, or maybe somebody that doesn't have, is not coming from a director position in another county, but has been in a management position within they have to have experience in DSS, or they're not gonna meet the qualifications for either job position. So we're not getting somebody that's not been in DSS work for a long time, but, you know, it is probably gonna make a substantial difference in salary. My county, Rick French might be a better,
Yeah, I think you know, we'll go from 90s to low 70s with the assistant. But I think that's consistent.
and, you know, if we attempt that and we don't get applicants or we don't get what we expect, we can certainly come back, bring it back to you to,
And our model calls for that.
yes, that's,
And the person that we're looking for, presume, you know, we're wanting someone who's well-versed in operational aspects of DSS, but they don't necessarily have to be a leader in some regards. I know that sounds odd, but some people are very well-versed at how things work and how operations take place, but they don't have to be as involved sometimes with people. And, you know, I think when you're looking there, I think that those are big pieces of the puzzle in making that team what it needs to be. So I like the model to be consistent, but if we can't get the person, then we may have to look at it in the future, in my opinion, to do something differently. But I would like for it to be the same across the board. Just me.
I like the consistency and the track we're on.
So what
Yeah.
we're hearing is you go to this, we'll advertise for an assistant.
Go to the assistant. We should be able to find someone who's well qualified. You know, I think when you're hiring an assistant DSS director, you know, you're looking for somebody that does have leadership and can run the place for the most part. So, you know, it's a tough job market out there, or a tough hiring market out there right now, so that's my only concern. But we'll see what happens.
all right. The next piece you need to take action on, I talked to Susan Osborne, Assistant Secretary for DHHS, about what the requirements were for an interim. Even though I'm Consolidated Health and Human Services Director, we have to notify them of management change, which I have done, and told them I was bringing to you for your approval tonight, an interim. That interim, there is no qualifications. It can be whomever you designate. And I asked if you chose that to be me, is that okay? And she's like, you're certainly qualified. So, in lieu of somebody that's not already there, but I think at one point it was our DSS attorney at one point. I know at one point we had an agency person that did an interim for a while. It's at your total discretion, but, and she said that could be from the county manager appointment, I could appoint that, or the Board of County Commissioners. So, county manager felt like that was your call, and, so we probably do
I
need
think
to,
to be consistent, it needs to be her.
You need to be
I
that
think you
person.
got it.
you probably need to
All right,
make that official.
I'll make a motion that Consolidated Human Services Director Leanne Wisnett serves as the interim DSS Director.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously.
Good choice.
Thank you. I wanted to remind the public and everyone listening and out there, on the next slide, we talked about the energy programs that are very prominent right now. In January 1st, it opened up to anybody. Remember that first month was for the individuals 60 years old or disabled. It is open to everybody now. Some of the counties in the state have actually spent all of their money out already, and we have not. So I want to remind folks, we have been out, we've done advertising, we have some more advertising campaigns, because it is hard to let everybody know of programs that are out there that can benefit them. So the program is open to all. we have a substantial amount of money still left, so I hope people will take advantage of this. It doesn't pay the individual directly, it pays the energy company. It can be firewood, can pay their firewood distributor. So, however you're heating your house. So if it's difficult for folks to pay their utility bills, they should come in and talk to us. I feel like if we don't start spending down a little bit more, the state about the 1st of February looks to see who has money left and starts moving it around. So we certainly want to use our funds in Alexander County, so.
We've got some cold weather coming too.
And I think that's part of why it's not been as cold as it usually is, and so I think people are, and we've said you don't have to rush in the first day, and you don't.
When
But-
we were initially discussing this, we thought it may not even make it through that first phase.
Right.
May get all used up.
We still have about $90,000 left, so
I'm
we've
assuming
not
that
seen.
the senior center is promoting that as well.
Yes, they are, and we actually went to the senior center and we went to the nutrition sites and actually taken applications there to save on transportation. We've added it to the county website. Chad did a great job adding it to the county website. Newspaper, radio, we've got flyers out. Wish we had the new sign all ready to run it across, but not yet. But anyway, I just wanted to put that back out to the public to let people know, it's there. And the next slide is the crisis intervention. We still have those funds too, but right now we have the regular funds. So, but just, if folks are in need, we want them to come on in before they're in crisis and the power's cut off. And then I wanted to bring to your attention that, you've heard this before, the county Medicaid audit is this month. The Session Law 2017-57, Section 11H22 is where that came from. And on the next slide, you'll see the state map. In 2019, the peach-colored counties, there were 30 that were in this audit cycle, and we're in cycle 2 that begins January. January, they will come in and pull randomly 20 records each month for 10 months. So we'll have 200 records looked at in the Medicaid-specific program. Our staff works really hard to make it accurate. They're looking at so much data. But the potential, Chad, you can go to the next slide, is where it talks about they're looking to make sure that they were eligible. There's percentage that we have to meet. If we inadvertently didn't do the math right on somebody's income and they should not have qualified for Medicaid and there was bills paid out, the county will be liable. This is when we talked last year. I think Trish talked about Medicaid audits, and even in the budget before, she had proposed some payback funds. We hope it doesn't come to that, but I'll keep you informed. I have a preliminary meeting with the auditor on Friday to just get more information about how that process will happen.
At one time, I presume not a whole lot's changed on that. The process was so cumbersome, and it was working people to death to get this stuff in. And then to hope that it's accurate against the bar that we wasn't really sure what we were measuring by. Has that cleaned up? Is that better from the state, from us, from auditors?
It is getting there. NC Fast is what you're talking about, that
Correct.
program that they transitioned to. It's still a work in progress. They've been working on it for years and years, and yes and no. Yes, some of it is improved, but no, it is nowhere near where it needs to be. A good example I will give you, and it is very cumbersome to staff, very frustrating. All of North Carolina has had huge turnover because people just are tired of dealing with it. The theory behind it is great. Electronic database, you can see from one county to another. You can upload all your documents. You can keep your supporting information all in one place. All that sounds great, except the system is not user-friendly at all. And it's still not. An example is for staff, if you've got let's say you've got a family of 10, and it needs that date of birth put 3 different places. My understanding and how electronic systems that I've worked in for the state, especially in health, when you put that date of birth in one time, it populates it throughout that whole record. That makes sense, right? not NC Fast. You have to enter it every single time. And if you're doing that 10 times for 10 people, and you even have to put the addresses to go with those people, when you know those are 6 children, staff still has to put that address. And if you miss a digit, it doesn't tell you where you missed it. You get to the whole end of this system in an hour maybe, or longer, and it won't let you close it out because there's an error. But it won't tell you where the error is. So it's still very challenging. So counties are, big counties like Buncombe, who has huge staffs, are worried to death about this audit. So, it's not certainly us, but, some things are a little better. Our staff are learning it, so they're getting faster with, just knowing you've got to enter that however many times.
Yeah, but the more time you have to spend doing that, and the less time you have to spend with people.
Oh, yeah. And, every time they do an upgrade to fix something, we just hold our breath because it's gonna tear up some things that was working. So, anytime we hear over the weekend, Monday's gonna be a upgrade, we're like, great. So, and I sit in on some of those trainings and meetings because I wanted to understand it, because I've heard that, how bad it is. Well, and when I sat there, I was like, why is that not putting it everywhere? They're like, oh, no, it doesn't. I said, has nobody told the state to do that? And it is a ticket that's been in, but it's been in for about 3 years now. And it's not, it has to move up of importance. So, yeah, it's a very challenging system. And totally out of our control. State, choice manages it, and, they're working. About every weekend they do an upgrade. But it's got a long way to go, in my opinion. But I'll keep you informed. Our first 20 charts will be pulled this month, and they won't be here on site. They're coming to meet with us on Friday to talk about the audit, but it'll be all done electronically. And they'll give us those 20 names. We'll have time to make sure everything's uploaded, and then they'll review them from Raleigh and send us back a report. We have 5 days to respond to that report. If we feel like there's something that they missed, we can respond back.
So we get to check the
We get to-
records before we send them to them?
We do, but we can't change any or edit anything on that. But we do get to see them. And if there's something not uploaded, we can upload it, but we can't change any of the information that was put in prior. Does that make sense? So let's say we didn't get the Social Security card uploaded, but it's in the file. We can upload it to where it needs to be. But we can't, fix a problem that we find. No. We can fix it immediately after they audit it. So we would only really have a month of payback versus, maybe it was a year-old record. Because what they'll audit in January was December's charts that we did. And then February will be 20 records that we did in January. So you're only a month, so, you're not like 10 or 12 months worth of payback. You've got a month if you get in there and correct it. That staff is working so hard. We're not gonna have any problems. We're gonna be fine. And you see on the next slide, there's 35 counties that's in our time frame. So, and 20,000 cases will be reviewed in that 3-year period. So I don't think I'd want to be those auditors. And the next slide just talks about that, hopefully there's no errors, but that we are held accountable. This is that MOU where we have to meet those accountability standards. If we don't meet those audit standards, then a joint accuracy, and they use acronyms, but I didn't because I'm still learning all the acronyms. The Joint Accuracy Improvement Plan will be developed. Very familiar with corrective action plans is what I call them. So, we are, seems like I gave you, and I did give you the letter in your packet. It's dated January 23rd, 2019. Excuse me, addressing the audits. And just tells you about, I gave you the Cliff Note version of this letter, but I put it in your packet if you want to reference it. And that's the consolidated board meeting for tonight. Any questions?
Good job. Appreciate your work out there.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Leanne. All right, I will make a motion that we go into, closed session now, per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, A 4 and 6, for economic development and personnel issues. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. We are in closed session.